the upcoming meeting between the President Donald Trump and Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky in Washington. Analysts are already describing it as Oval Office Showdown 2.0, a high-stakes encounter that could shape not just U.S.-Ukraine relations, but the broader balance between the West and Russia. Now, let's take a step back. Only 6 months ago, Zelensky's last meeting with Trump turned into a tense standoff, with Ohio Senator J.D. Vance leading an ambush that left the Ukrainian leader cornered and humiliated. Since then, European leaders and U.S. lawmakers have worked tirelessly to repair the damage, pushing to secure stronger support for Ukraine. For a while, it seemed to be working. Senator Lindsey Graham even advanced legislation aimed at imposing secondary sanctions on buyers of Russian oil, a measure designed to choke off Moscow's war financing. But then came Trump's meeting with Vladimir Putin in Alaska just last week. For 2.5 hours, the Russian president painted a vision of cooperation, arms control agreements, Arctic exploration, technological partnerships, all hinging on one condition: that Ukraine be treated as a mere obstacle to U.S.-Russia relations. In effect, Putin reframed the war not as Russian aggression, but as an irritating side issue, preventing a quote-quote partnership between Moscow and Washington. And here's where Trump took the bait. He emerged from Alaska declaring he and Putin agreed on almost everything, except Ukraine. By framing it that way, Trump signaled that Kiev, not Moscow, was the problem. For Zelensky, this is an alarming setup going into today's talks. Instead of walking into the White House as a partner in defense of democracy, he risks being portrayed as the obstacle to peace. Trump, meanwhile, has been repeating what many observers call the last thing he hears from the last person in the room. That explains why, after Alaska, his rhetoric shifted to suggesting Zelensky could end the war immediately if he wanted to. It echoes Putin's line that Ukraine, not Russia, is prolonging the conflict. So what can we expect from today's meeting? The best-case scenario for Kyiv would be that European leaders, many of whom are in Washington at the same time, act as Zelensky's diplomatic bodyguard, reinforcing Ukraine's case and trying to counterbalance Trump's Putin-inspired narrative. They'll attempt to be the, quote, last voice in the room, reminding Trump of Western unity and Ukraine's right to defend its sovereignty. But the worst-case scenario is far darker. If Trump blames Zelensky for obstructing peace, it could fracture U.S.-European relations. Imagine a situation where Trump pressures Ukraine to concede territory while Europeans refuse to endorse such a deal. That could split the alliance, weaken NATO, and leave Kyiv exposed. Even more worrying, Washington might retaliate against European resistance by curtailing intelligence sharing or restricting access to advanced defense systems like the Patriot missiles. And this is precisely what Putin wants. By flattering Trump and offering him the chance to cosplay Ronald Reagan as a great arms negotiator, Russia buys itself time, years even, to grind away at Ukraine militarily, waiting for the West to grow tired. History tells us this is part of Moscow's strategy, promising concessions at the table, while pursuing maximalist goals on the battlefield, namely dismantling Ukraine's independence and reasserting imperial control. There's also symbolism at play. Reports suggest that U.S. officials have asked whether Zelensky will wear a suit for the meeting, rather than his now famous olive green military attire. It may sound trivial, but it carries weight. Forcing Ukraine's president to change his dress is a subtle way of signaling dominance. America calling the shots, allies expected to conform. It's a troubling image when set against 80 years of U.S. leadership based on partnership rather than subjugation. Meanwhile, J.D. Vance is expected to attend. He played a central role in the February confrontation and is eager to position himself as Trump's heir apparent, both within the Republican Party and possibly in the White House itself. Observers warn that he may again try to outmaneuver Zelensky, portraying Ukraine as unreasonable or stubborn, and in doing so, elevate his own standing among Trump's base. European leaders, for their part, face their own dilemma. Many quietly accept that Kyiv may never fully regain territories like Crimea or the 20% of land currently occupied by Russian forces. Yet they also fear that conceding too much will only embolden Moscow to demand more land, more restrictions on Ukraine's sovereignty, even the re-establishment of Russian as an official state language. It's a slippery slope that leads not to peace, but to endless escalation. So where does this leave us? Today's meeting has the potential to either reinforce Western unity behind Ukraine or unravel months of careful diplomacy. Trump's unpredictability adds another layer of risk. He is motivated less by ideology or policy than by perception, how he looks on the world stage. Whether he positions himself as a peacemaker, a dealmaker, or a tough negotiator will depend largely on who gets the final word in his ear. For Zelensky, the challenge is enormous. He must defend his country's survival while navigating the personal egos and political calculations of American leaders. For Europe, the stakes are just as high, holding the line against Russian aggression while preventing a rift with Washington. And for Trump, the question is whether he emerges as a statesman seeking genuine solutions or as a performer chasing headlines and Nobel Peace Prize dreams. Either way, this encounter is more than just another meeting. It's a defining moment that could set the trajectory of the war and of Western security for years to come. So what's your take? Drop a comment below. Thank you for watching.